Anyway, we just wanted to make sure that staff are prepared, not just here at work, but also anywhere you may go. You never know where you may encounter an active shooter, and we just want to make sure people are prepared. Just remember, this isn't let's point out what we're doing wrong, but where can we make improvements type of thing, and I'm always open to feedback from anyone on ideas about the building or anything else. So we'll turn the time over to him. He works for Utah Highway Patrol and did a really great training this morning, so we're looking forward to another good one this afternoon, and thanks for your participation.
All right. I'm a lot louder than her, so I don't even know if I need this, but I'll wear it. I told him I always feel like I'm doing like a comedy bit when they make me wear a mic. So I do work for the Highway Patrol, Department of Public Safety. I've been there about 17 years, and 15 of that I've spent on the SWAT team, and I've been the team leader of that team for the last 6 years, and I do aviation, so fly helicopter stuff around the state, and then I've got a couple of my own planes that I fly around, just stupid pilot tricks, try to kill myself. I am a little bit of an adrenaline junkie, and I've started to realize that as I talk with people teaching these classes. So when I retire in a few years, I don't know what I'm going to do to get my fix. So we'll see. We are going to talk today about active shooters a little bit. This should be interactive. If you have questions, ask them. Okay? Now, there are a million different things that could happen in an active shooter, right? My goal is not to address every single little issue. My goal is to get you guys thinking so that you can make good decisions if you find yourself in an incident. So we're going to spend a majority of our time talking about surviving if you find yourself in an incident, okay? We will spend a little bit of time about post-incident issues, what it'll look like, things you can do. We're going to talk a little bit about medical stuff. And then we're going to talk about firearms and weapons in the workplace. Where are the attorneys? There were 2 that snuck in last time. Nobody wants to raise their hand? No attorneys in here? Okay. Phew. Okay. Any medical personnel, EMTs, paramedics, doctors? 1? Okay. So you can check my facts if you want when we get to the medical stuff. Call me out. There's nothing you guys can say to me that I haven't been called worse, so go for it. You're not going to hurt my feelings. But on the flip side, I expect you guys to listen a little bit and not be so sensitive, because this topic we're talking about can be a little bit rough sometimes, right? But I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm just going to call it exactly how I see it. And if you don't like it, my goal was not to offend you, but you know, some of these things are going to be a little bit tough to talk about. So, in fact, we were talking about a couple of gals here before we even got started about why are people so reluctant to step in and do things nowadays? Why are people reluctant to help people around them? Why are they reluctant to say things? Okay, and I think part of it is because we are so politically correct and so worried about what everybody's going to think about us that we don't just come out and say things, right? And sometimes you just got to say something and then talk about it. Right? Because just pretending it doesn't exist doesn't help anybody. So really quick, a definition of an active shooter is an incident where an individual or individuals are involved in causing death or serious bodily injury. Now, it doesn't have to be a gun, right? Here's the problem. Everybody gets wrapped around, I don't know where all my props go. Everybody gets wrapped around the idea that it always has to be a firearm. But the reality is, it could be anything. Do you guys see a red gun sitting anywhere? Where is it? No? Oh, right there, in that sleeve. I'm like, I work long hours, okay? I'm on call like almost all the time, and sometimes when I get really tired, I get punchy. So forgive me. So it doesn't always have to be a gun, right? Somebody could come in here with something else, like, say, a knife, right? Or something like this, and cause all sorts of problems, okay? And so don't think gun, because there's all sorts of different ways people are doing this. In the countries where guns are primarily outlawed, they're using knives, they're using acid, they're using all sorts of different things to do these types of attacks. Okay, so we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get going. But I am going to say active shooter. Think about other things too. So they said, hey, put this together, but don't show any gory pictures and don't offend anybody and don't scare anybody. They were pretty sure that half the state workforce was going to stop coming to work after I presented. And so this is a quote from Chris Hadfield. He's a Canadian astronaut. I know, right? Who knew Canada had a space program? He says, just because something makes us fearful doesn't mean we ignore it. We figure out what we can do about it. Okay? And so some of this stuff may make some of you afraid, but that's okay. We're going to talk about it. And it'll get you closer to being ready if you ever find yourself in an incident. Anybody ever heard of an OODA loop? Couple maybe? You're like, that sounds like a made-up word. Like, it is. Okay. It's not even really a word. It's an acronym. OODA, OODA, stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, and Act. Okay. And it was coined and came up. Colonel Boyd, he flew fighter jets in Vietnam and came back and was an instructor for fighter pilots. He's actually the father of the F-16. I find that stuff interesting, but I don't know if you guys care. Pretty interesting guy. And so he came up with this thought process, and he says, anytime you do anything, you're going through this loop. And so he used this to teach his fighter pilots how to win in a dogfight. Okay? Pretty dynamic, fast, definitely deadly type situation. So, well, that's awesome. I'd rather not look at myself if we can avoid that. So he said, you do this all the time. And here, I'll break it down to the simplest example that I can think of, because it's happened to everybody, right? Narrow hallway, you're walking down the hallway, somebody's walking towards you. And you step this way, and what do? Same way, right? And then you both do this, right? And you do this little shuffle back and forth, okay? All that is both of you observing, orienting, making a decision to step left or right, and then making that, and then starting your loop over again because the other guy did the same thing. And you both go through your loop a couple times usually before somebody goes and steps off the side, okay? And so you're like, okay, well, now that's starting to make sense to you, and you guys go, well, that has nothing to do with an active shooter. Bad guy comes in the front desk of this building and starts shooting. He's in this loop. Where is he? He's acting. He's in here already acting. You are sitting at your desk, not paying attention, like playing solitaire or selling stuff on eBay, whatever, right? And so I actually taught this at Stampin' Up! The other day. And so I was like, you're at your desk just stamping away, and they got a kick out of that. I don't even know what Stampin' Up! Was. But you are sitting at your desk, and you're not paying a lot of attention, and the bad guy comes in and starts shooting. Where are you? You're clear back at observe, right? So you're already behind. Generally, whoever can get through this loop the fastest wins. Now, and you really see this in sports. If you watch sports, whoever can make the best decision the fastest and act on them usually wins. Okay? So there are things that you can do, however, to make your loop faster. Are there decisions you can make ahead of time? Yeah, simple decisions just like I'm going to do something and not freeze, right? And so we're going to give you some things that you can think about to make some decisions ahead of time. Interesting thing about a loop is anytime I interrupt it, where do you have to go? Back to the very beginning, right? And make new decisions and make new observations. And so if we can interrupt the bad guy's loop, we can slow him down. So if he's in here actively killing and we can say, I don't know, hit him in the head with a baseball bat, okay, we can reset his loop and buy some time. Now, in an active shooter, every 20 seconds, statistically, somebody is shot or killed. Okay? So if you can waste 20 seconds of the bad guy's time, what did you do? You saved a life. Effectively, you saved a life. And that might be something as simple as locking a door. And now he has to go in another way. Okay? And if it's an all-glass door, they're like, oh, he'll just shoot through it. Yes, but that takes time to shoot through it and step through it. And I just saved a life. All right? And so we're going to talk about buying you guys time, okay? Taking the bad guy out of his loop, and then who's the last person in this that might be in a loop? In an active shooter. Say there was a shooter in this building. Cops coming, right? You guys are all in the loop. Bad guys in the loop. Here come cops into the situation, and they're also in that same loop. So I'm going to give you guys a couple tips, really more for my benefit. So, but I'll refer back to this as we go through this. I'm going to show a video to you. This is called Run, Hide, Fight. It's about 6 minutes long. You guys have probably all heard of Run, Hide, Fight, right? It's probably not groundbreaking to any of you. Have you heard of anything else? Nobody's heard of Evade, Resist, Escape? Or Avoid, Deny, Defend? Or Alice, Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate? It's all the same garbage, right? We just call it something else and charge you $5 grand. It's really all it is, right? It's not the words, it's about what's behind the words, right? And so we're going to really delve into this Run, Hide, Fight thing. I like Run, Hide, Fight. It's simple. I can teach it to kindergartners. I can teach it to old people. Everybody understands that. Yeah, you can go to something exotic if you want and pay the money. That's fine. You're going to get the same stuff. Run, Hide, Fight is pretty universal, pretty well known. You can go on Department of Homeland Security's website, and there's tests and quizzes and handouts, all centered around Run, Hide, Fight that you can provide to your employees, and it costs you nothing, and you don't have to do any work, and you look like the hero. Because look at all this I did for you guys, right? It's not anything groundbreaking, but there are a few things in here that you might disagree with that I do also, and we'll talk about it after we watch the video.
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911.
Yes, we're to Washington. Help us!
If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly.
Left, slice and get my back.
The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter.
Rear. Got shots down the hall. Shots down the hall. I got rear.
Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
All right. So I heard some of you laughing, giggling. What were we laughing about? This one? Okay. So, yeah. Hey, let me tell you, that's usually the biggest dude in the room. Okay. What do you do with somebody like this? Knock him out? Number 1 answer. Number 2 answer is usually duct tape, right? Okay, but do I really want to be the person like just kicking the hell out of my coworker in the closet in the middle of an active shooter? Probably not, right? Like, let's save your energy for somebody else that deserves it. But what do you do if you've got somebody like that? Anybody ever dealt with anybody like that? Here's what you do. You give them a job. Yep, I distract them. Okay? So, and it doesn't even have to be important. I could be like, hey, I need you to stack all the chairs in that corner. Or I need you to write everybody's name on the board. Or I need you to something, right? And it gets them doing something and take their mind off what's happening to them. So that's why if I was like a first grade teacher, I'd have a drawer full of Band-Aids and bubble gum, right? Because you can distract a lot of kids with a pack of gum and some Band-Aids, right? So it's taking them and putting them somewhere else. What else? What in that video did you see and you're like, oh, I don't like that, or that's dumb, or good idea, bad idea, what?
One of the questions for me was to wait to call 911 until you've gotten out and gotten everybody. It just seems like a delay in the time, and so...
Do we want to call 911? Yeah, and as quick as possible, right? Kind of getting ahead of me a little bit, but you're right. But how many do I need to call 911? One, right? One person. So how many people are in this room? A lot, right? So I need one of all of us to call 911. It's probably not the one that's running away or currently busy, right? Somebody that's in their office and relatively safe, do that. So call 911 if you're safe and you can do it. Absolutely. What else? They group together? Good idea or bad idea?
If it's active shooter, bad idea.
Okay. So everything, and I'm going to get to this in a little bit, everything is give and take, right? You always have this constant, what am I willing to risk in order to gain? What am I willing to give up to get? And while grouping up makes it easier for a bad guy, what also does grouping up do that may actually benefit us? Could all of you beat me? Probably. Well, not probably. That should be a resounding hell yes, we can, right? Now, am I going to probably get a few of you? Probably. but that's okay, right? What, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. What happened in Denver 3 weeks ago? Shooter goes into the school, goes into a classroom. What happened?
Oh, the kid threw himself in front of the guy.
3 kids attacked him, right? One of the kids got killed. Is that better than the 30 kids in the classroom getting killed? Yeah, right? It's not ideal. Ideal would be nobody gets killed, except bad guy. But it's better than all of them getting killed, right? And so we'll talk about that a little bit. What else? Anything else in here? I got a couple things that I'll throw my BS flag on. Go ahead.
Well, obviously for the movie it's so we can identify who the bad guy is, but I can't imagine that as workplace violence, I dress up in all black to come in and do my deed.
Right, like
Telegraph ourselves.
the clearly off-duty cop, right? As your bad guy.
Backpack and Terminator glasses on. Like, I can't imagine that's a wardrobe for workplace violence.
Yes and no. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it isn't. Sung Chi Cho, who shot up Virginia Tech, was dressed almost exactly like that. So, depends. If it's a workplace violence, like a targeted violence, domestic spillover into the workplace, usually not. If they're coming in here to cause mass casualties and essentially go to war, it's not uncommon for them to dress for that type of activity. Okay. Let me talk to you about the gal in the copy room. Okay, let me take you back to that, right? She went in there and locked the door, good idea? Okay, she shut off the lights, good idea? Silenced her phone, good idea? And then what did she do? Push the copier in front of the door, good idea?
It was pretty impressive that she could push the car.
Did you see her push it? She was just like,
That's what I was thinking.
it was on wheels, right? What does that do? It what? It blocks your exit, but even worse,
Telegraph, you're in there.
it gives the bad guy a positive indicator that somebody is in this room. It doesn't stop that door from opening. You saw her move it. She was like this. So now the door comes open, bad guy sees copy machine in front of the door. He knows without a doubt somebody is in here. They moved it in front of there. And it doesn't slow him down, except maybe a second or two, because you just shoulder it out of the way. Okay? So I'm really kind of that guy that goes, common sense, let's think about what we're doing and not just do it because some expert or some video. So I'm calling BS on that part of the video. That's stupid. Why would you move the copy machine to the corner and climb behind it? Right? Shut off the lights. Bad guy sees an empty room with a copy machine in the corner. Is he going to go look behind it? Probably not. Right? That makes more sense to me. Okay, so all of you have this innate thing in your head that tells you like that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard, right? And you've all gone to a training where that thing is going off like, this is stupid. Why am I listening to this? Okay, and you just discount it. So hopefully that's not going off when I talk to you today, right? Hopefully everything that I'm talking to you about I've actually done and tested. And so I know that it works. So the last thing that I dislike about the video, and probably the biggest, is that this run, hide, fight idea is presented to you like you should run first. If that doesn't work, then you should hide. And even the video says, as a last resort, fight. Right? That's what it says. I've listened to that video like 1,000 times. Okay? If I am the bad guy, and I am right here, is running going to help you? Is hiding going to help you? What is his only choice? If I'm at a concert in Las Vegas and there's a bad guy 32 floors up shooting, can I fight that individual? What are my options? Run and hide, right? And so run, hide, fight is not 1, 2, 3. It is here's 3 choices. You pick your best and you do it. And it's very much an individual decision based on your abilities, your skills, your assets, what you have to use and to help you. So that reminded me, of course, of this commercial.
Let's hide in the attic.
No, in the basement. Why can't we just get in the running car?
Are you crazy? Let's hide behind the chainsaws.
Smart. Yeah, okay.
If you're in a horror movie, you make poor decisions. That's what you do.
This is a good idea.
you want to save 15% or more on car insurance, you switch to Geico. It's what you do.
Okay. Blonde gal had the right idea there, right? But nobody listened to her. Okay, and she went along with the crowd anyway, even though she knew that was probably the wrong thing to do, because she had a running car. I don't want any of you to miss your proverbial running car in an incident like this just because somebody who is an expert or maybe not an expert talks you into doing something else. Okay? If you have an option to get out, to end it, to whatever, you need to do that, right? And that's where I'm trying to get you guys to think about this a little bit and put some time and thought into it so that you can make those good decisions. It's hard to go against the crowd, right? In a group like that, if you're in something like that and you're like, why don't we just do that? That makes more sense. And they're like, no, we're going this way. Okay? It's hard to go, good luck. She could have gotten that car and drove away. And no harm, no foul kind of thing. So I'll kind of refer back to the loop and this idea that you guys can make good decisions as we go through this. Okay, I already know the answer to some of this stuff. You guys don't work in a secure building, right? Your primary entrance is unlocked. Your secondaries are locked and card access, right? So building security works to some extent. It's not foolproof, right? You can have the most secure building. I taught this down at the prison at the point of the mountain at their headquarters there, right off the freeway. And it's like, their headquarters is like a prison too. Right? Double doors, the whole 9 yards, right? Controlled from a control. Are they safe in there? Let's say you work in the most secure building in the world. Are you safe in there? Why not?
Someone who works there that has all that access and
there it is, right? It's a coworker, right? And they may have access to all those things. They may have cards and keys, and it doesn't matter. So don't get a false sense of security because you work in a secure area. This is kind of important so that you guys understand. To date, where has most of your training come from in this type of stuff? Unless you're in the military or some type of security police type stuff, where have you gotten all your training from in this type of stuff? YouTube and Hollywood, right? So let's talk about a couple things and just to dispel some myths. Will this door stop a handgun round? This door will stop most handgun rounds, okay? Understand that. It's a solid core wood door. Most handgun rounds, if they make it through, are going to be anemic at best on the other side of this, okay? Not enough to really kill somebody. Rifle round? No, completely different, right? It's going to come, rifle's going to come through there. Will this wall stop a handgun round? No, we're talking about 2 layers of drywall, right? The round's going to come right through there. But as it's coming through here, it's going to start to tumble, and it's going to start to dump a ton of mechanical energy, right? And so if I can get even this, both the walls and then the bullet hitting this is going to take quite a bit out of it, more than you think, okay? Because bullets perform really poorly through layers, right? Through a solid piece, they do really well. Solid piece of steel, really well. But at the next thing it hits, it's going to be tumbling, okay? So once it hits one sheetrock, second sheetrock, and then this, now it's starting to tumble. So while this might not be bulletproof, if I put wall, blanket, and this table up on end, I can almost guarantee you that you're going to be much, much better off, okay? Again, rifle, you're going to need multiple layers. But I can tell you that layers stop bullets. That's how Kevlar and ballistic vests work, is multiple small layers. Okay, so think about putting layers between you and the bad guy, whether that's multiple rooms, desks, chairs, whatever. Okay, filing cabinets work really well if you can find filing cabinets anymore.
What about windows?
Windows, that's interesting. I was in a room, round came through the window into the room that I was in and hit a dresser right next to me, like about a foot in front of me. And I looked down and all it did is nick the dresser. That handgun round was defeated by a window. Okay, so while obviously bullets are going to go through glass, the first one and second one are going to be pretty anemic, okay, because it's going to start to tumble. 3, 4, and 5 are going to be fairly effective. So unless you're talking ballistic glass, windows are not going to stop much of anything. Okay? So put layers between you and the problem. It'll increase your chance of survival. This is probably a very interesting one and pretty important for you guys, both with where you work and what you do. How do you guys find out? Somebody comes in the front door right here, starts shooting. How do you guys find out about it? We're on 2, right? We're on floor 2? Now I'm starting to get the layout of your building. Is there a floor below us and above us? Do you think anybody on this floor and this floor are going to hear the shooting on this floor? You're not going to hear it all, period. Somebody in the back, so I went into the finance office, I think it is, right behind here. Somebody in that room, say they've got a back corner office in there. Do you think they're going to hear it at the front door? You will hear it, but it will sound like somebody dropped something. And you'll go, what was that? Okay. Here is the fact. And I can come in, if you want to bring me back, I'll bring blank guns. We'll lock this building down and we'll shoot blanks throughout this building. Okay? And you will know exactly what you're going to hear. But I've done it at lots of buildings very similar to this. Okay? And you will not hear it. Okay? You'll hear it if somebody's shooting at the front door, obviously we'll hear it right here. Right? Deep into this building, it's going to sound like somebody tipped a table over or dropped a book. You're not going to recognize it as a gunshot. And so there's twofold to that. Don't rely on being able to hear it. And if you do hear something, and you hear one, followed by 2, 3, 4 more, what are the chances that somebody's tipping over 4 tables in a row? Right? So it's not how loud it is, it's also recognizing what it is. Okay? It's not like Hollywood. You're not going to hear it way deep in the building. It's just not going to happen. Screaming, I don't know, maybe somebody's got some pipes on them in here. Probably not going to hear that either. So that begs the question, if I'm on the floor above this, how do I know that it's even happening below me? You might not, right? There should be some way to let people know. Okay, and I know that they're working on like a mass texting thing where you can put your number in and they can send out a thing and everybody gets a text like, hey, there's an active shooter in the building, blah, blah, blah. Like lots of state facilities use that. Health department uses that. All the colleges use that, where you can sign up and you can get that mass text that there's a problem. PA systems sometimes work well. That's mostly what schools are relying on, is PA systems and radios to let everybody know. That's an option. But let's talk about that since we are at a school-centered. Okay, who at 95% of all the schools is responsible for putting out that announcement that there's an active shooter in the building? The secretary sitting where? At the front desk that's currently being shot at. Does anybody see a problem with that? I mean, this is common sense stuff, right? But you say this to some administrators and they go, oh, crap. Right? Does anybody expect these people sitting at the front desk to, under fire, reach up and grab their phone and dial star 3245, whatever? Certainly not, right? Okay, I'm a big advocate of anybody being able to put out that alert. Any teacher from any phone in the building should be able to pick up a phone and go, there's an active shooter in the building. Anybody should be able to send out that text message on that platform that says there's an active shooter in the building, okay, or whatever, so that we can get people alerted, because I certainly don't expect people under fire to be able to do that, okay? You do have a panic button in your building at the front desk. Now that's a little bit different, right? That's something that if you can keep your head about you, you can flip that panic switch and start to get some help coming, okay? What's that?
I didn't know that.
There is one at the front desk, okay? And it calls the police, which is great, right? Locks down the elevators too, from what I understand. So, which is good, right? But there's no auditory. You guys don't know. You'd be like, elevator's broke, right? And you're going to start making these calls. And so if you go to the elevators and they're not working, maybe just go, hang on a second, why aren't these elevators working? Right now in your building, I would be like, And maybe they're broken, and that's fine, but I'm in no hurry right now. I'm just going to wait a minute, okay? Maybe pay attention to what's going on, because there may be a bigger problem. But I know that we're working on a text. Yes, go ahead.
So sometimes people, the natural response is go pull the fire alarm in a case like that. And that, I know that's something we shouldn't do. So that, but if you have no other like methods to get a message out, would you still advocate for pulling a fire alarm?
I do not advocate pulling a fire alarm because an 11 and 13-year-old in Jonesboro, Arkansas, pulled a fire alarm and waited till the kids gathered outside and just shot them at their gathering place. Okay, and if 11 and 13-year-old can figure it out, I guarantee your bad guy can figure it out. Fire alarm gives you a pre-designed response, usually gathering places where now I have large groups of people, right? Heaven forbid somebody figure out I put improvised explosive devices at each gathering place and pull a fire alarm and then detonate and then, you know, so my job is to think of worst case scenario, right? And try to prepare for that. And honestly, Las Vegas is exactly how I would have done it, but I would have added some uniforms into it, right? Not hard to get hold of a security uniform for Mandalay Bay. Do all my shooting, throw on my Mandalay Bay shooting, you know, security guard uniform, and just waltz out untouched. And so, you know, I got to think about all that stuff because that's what I do. Fire alarm, generally not a good idea. Okay, because of that. I don't even know why we have fire alarms in buildings anymore, to be honest. Does anybody do anything when the fire alarm gets pulled? I don't. I usually just keep working.
No, we don't do that here.
There's really no danger of me burning alive in this building, right? There's nothing that really burns in here. Anyway, I'm going off. Are there any firefighters in here? I better be careful. I started talking about this stuff in the fire marshals and because the fire marshals are in my department. They get all red and veins start popping out. And I'm like, chillax, man. Right?
In this building, we have fire alarms. We're out the door because we're tested. However, I've been in many a store where the fire alarm goes off and everybody just keeps shopping.
I was in the airport past security when the fire alarm went off. And they're like, I ain't going anywhere. I'm not going through TSA again. Screw that. Right? Here's the thing with a fire. Are you in danger of burning to death right now? And I'm going to make some people mad here. I don't really care. Once the fire alarm's pulled, I'm going to stop for a minute and go, okay, is this really a fire? Because there's certain things that I'm going to start to see with the fire, right? I'm going to start to smell things. I may hear things. Fire trucks pulling it, and I'm going to just take my time. I'm not currently on fire, so there's no risk to me right now. So I'm going to go real slow and maybe assess that. The chance that I need to get out of this building in the next 5 minutes or I'm going to burn to death is like non-existent, right? And so even I don't understand why people get trampled in a fire alarm. Just slow down, okay? Unless you're currently on fire, there's really no emergency, right? And so even as the fire alarm goes off, I'm going to stay where I'm at. I'm going to assess. I don't smell anything. I don't hear anything. I may probe a little deeper. You know, that's the kind of response I expect of fire, not like, and run outside, if that makes sense. And then everybody's a little bit safer because nobody gets trampled. So fire alarms generally not a good idea for that reason. Now, I will say this, though. There are buildings that are starting to put fire alarms, and right next to it, there'll be a blue one. Blue one is for police, red one is for firefighters. Right? And so you have active shooter alarms starting to show up at a lot of higher education, college, universities, those kind of places. So I think that's going to be a continuing trend that you may see at some point in some of your buildings even. So, okay. So let's talk about running a little bit. Running works, can be effective. Your goal if you're going to run is to get out and get away. You know, how far away, where do I go? Those are all decisions that you have to make now for yourself. So if I work here, I should have an idea north, south, east, west, how I get out in each direction and where I'm going to. So I taught this at the Heber Wells building just up the street here. And I said, where are you guys running to? And they were all like, Firestone. Okay, well, Firestone's just east of that building. Why Firestone? Why were they running there? It was their fire gathering spot. Okay, so I'm like, okay. So what's south of Firestone? It's Salt Lake City Justice Court. with 50 pissed off cops waiting to testify, okay? Run there, right? So it should make sense. Like, why would I run to Firestone when there's a whole bunch of guys with guns right here that would rather be doing that than testifying in court? It's got to make sense. So you should look around you and go, okay, if I'm going to go out this door, I'm going to run to that building and then to that building and then to where? You know? You're not far from Salt Lake City Police Station, right? If I can get myself inside that building, you're pretty safe? Yeah, you're not far from some fire stations if I can get myself in. So look around you, have a plan, where am I running to? Ahead of time. So your loop is faster, okay? If you're in a hardened area, and I've seen this too, people leave perfectly safe areas for someplace that's not as safe. So we did a big drill down at the National Guard base, down off right off Freeway and Draper. And we're clearing it, and there's like 4 shooters in there. And the guy I'm with, we find 2 soldiers inside of a Humvee. They were maintenance people, but there's a Humvee in there getting some maintenance. And they're hiding inside the Humvee. And the guy I'm with is like, get out. And I was like, no, stay. You're inside an armored Humvee, right? Stay there. Lock the doors. You know, we'll come back and get you in a few hours, okay? So if you're in some place that's safe, don't always default to this run, right? It's got to make sense to you. So you should ask yourself, what am I gaining and what am I giving up by doing this, by running? So if we're in this room just like it is right now, and there's a shooter out there, what are we giving up if we choose to run?
The barrier.
Does this room provide us some safety? Yeah. Okay. What else? Numbers. I've got 35 people in here. We could have some pretty good plans. What else? Just as this room sits, right? Do you have some weapons in here? Yeah, I've got one at least. We've got a baseball bat right here. Is this a pretty good equalizer? Yeah, right? So you should think, I don't know if this makes sense to run. If I run and get over there, yeah, I'm giving up the protection of this room, but I'm gaining that. And it should be worth it, right? The reward should be worth the risk that you take by doing something. And I probably should stop using this analogy, but I think it's hilarious. So if I choose to drive a Prius, what do I give up?
Power.
Power. I'm not towing a boat, 4-wheel drive. Nobody swipes right on my Tinder, right? Okay. So, but I gained something. It's half as much to put tires on it, way less gas. I got a tax deduction because it's efficient. Like, everything is give and take. And so if the opposite works. If I choose to drive a truck, I can tow a boat, and I got 4-wheel drive and whatever, but I go to put tires on it, and it's $3,000 or whatever, you know, ridiculous because I got big jacked up tires. And so it cost me twice as much to insure and 3 times as much to put gas in it. Everything is give and take. You should ask yourself, before you do anything, is what I'm going to gain by doing this worth what I'm giving up? Okay, and if it is, go for it. Okay, so we kind of already talked about the call 911 thing. One person calls 911. I don't need everybody to do it. Don't scream on the phone. This is for my dispatchers. Okay, don't scream on the phone. Know where you're at, et cetera, kind of thing. One person call 911. You're exiting the building. You've decided to run, and you're running out. Do me a favor. Empty hands. Okay? Run out of the building like this. Okay? Do not run out of the building like this. This is happening more and more, where people are like, oh, I'm going to get so many likes on my face page. Okay? Look at me. Do you see a problem with this? Yeah, so cops are running in. Cops are going through the loop, right? I'm looking at hands. I see lots of empty hands. That's easy. All of a sudden, I see this. Or this, okay? Are you going to get shot? Maybe, probably not, okay? But it does force me to reset my loop, go back to the beginning. What's that in his hand? Oh, it's a phone. Okay, I don't need to shoot him, okay? And then I reset my loop and I go, oh, it's a phone. That guy's a moron. And then I knock it out of your hand as I run by. Okay.
Maybe push that person.
Yeah. So cops do things for therapy, right? You guys want to have a ton of fun? Go out on I-80 at TSA shift change. And they're late, and you stop them. they're speeding, right? And they're late and they're in their little TSA uniform. It's hilarious, right? They'd be like, hey, I need you to step out. You've been selected for a random. Take off your shoes and your belt, you know. Because every time I go through TSA, I get random, right? It's like, whatever. Okay, so empty hands, do that for me. It makes it easier. Okay, so not this room in particular, but most rooms in this building that I've seen so far have an exterior window, right? So you may be locking your door and then using that window to escape, right? And running out of the building. Everybody think that's an option? Almost every classroom in every school in the state has one door coming into the classroom, right? And then what? Windows, right? Okay. Good idea or bad idea to try to run out those windows to try to escape? I think it's a pretty good idea, right? If the bad guy's on the other side of this door and I have a window right there and I can get out that window, that's the right way. I want to get away from this guy, right? As far away as I can. What's that? Okay. But I'm going to talk to you about that. Is a broken leg better than a 2-2-3 in the chest? Yes, it is. In Virginia Tech, so Virginia Tech had a lot of interesting things come out of it. 28 of the 30 that were killed in Virginia Tech were shot in the head. Is that because this guy's a superior marksman? Why? Nobody's moving. They're just sitting there and taking it. They're not fighting. They're not moving. They're not running. They're just, I give up, surrendering. And he's executing them, okay? Except for one classroom. Liviu Librescu was a Romanian-born Jew. He was a professor there, and all he did was go like this, held the door shut, said, break the window, kids, and get out. They did. A couple broken ankles as they jumped from the second floor, but they all escaped. Cho shot through the door and killed Librescu, but his actions saved everybody in the class. Okay. Why was his reaction different than everybody else? Why do you think?
Because that's pretty good how he possibly have, different situations where, that would thought more.
He had a different mindset. Than the 28 who got shot in the head and who just let it happen, he wasn't going to let this happen. Why? Okay, maybe. He was actually in the Holocaust, in a camp, whole 9 yards, right? Do you think he understood violence differently than the 20-somethings college kids that know everything sitting in his class? Yeah, and he did something about it. He knew this wasn't going to go very well and saved all their lives just by holding the door shut. Okay, so yes, you can exit out a window. Most teachers I talk to have said, yeah, I would exit the window and get my kids out. I'm like, money, freaking do it. How are you going to break that window? Chair. That's what everybody says. Have you ever tried to break a window with chair? Now throw it hard.
Now really throw it.
Go try it, Chloe. He's like, no.
Last time.
Now go up and try and punch
You will not break commercial grade glass inside of a school or a building with a chair. Okay? You will not break commercial grade glass inside of any of these schools with anything less than something along the lines of a hammer or something like that. Okay? And it's important that you understand that because Hollywood teaches you that I just pick somebody up and throw them through the glass, right? I mean, that's what John Wick did, right? It worked for him. The reality is, glass is not easy to break. Did you see it flex? Okay? It is not easy to break. So if I needed to break that glass, okay, here's how I'm going to do it. If I needed to break that glass with what's in here, does anybody see anything I might be able to do it with? Probably this is going to be your best bet. Separate it here. Use this brass piece to break it. Okay? So things that are really good at breaking glass, the best and the most inconspicuous is something like this, spring-loaded center punch. Right? Cost me $3, Harbor Freight. And inside here is a big spring. I push on it. I don't want to ruin your new chairs. I push on it, and the spring loads up. and then it releases all that energy into the glass, and it'll shatter the whole thing. Breaking glass is very much not how hard you can hit it. It's very much a finesse thing, okay? And so you saw how hard if I took this baseball bat and swung it as hard as I can at that window, would it break? Like he was doing in the middle? No, it's not going to break. It's going to bounce off. What I need to do, if this was my window, is go to the corner, okay, where the frame's going to absorb that flex. And if I'm using this, I'm going to whip it. Instead of swinging as hard as I can, I'm going to pop it like that, and it'll break, okay? Or I can use something like this, or something like this, or something like this. Metal, sharp, where it's going to focus all my energy into a point, and then pick the corner and pop it like that, and it'll break, okay? But I just kind of need to dispel some of these rumors, because I don't need some teacher throwing a chair at a window 15 times trying to get her kids out, and she can't get out, because nobody's actually shown her how to break a window, okay? Everything I'm talking to you about, I've done it. I did this, and I filmed it for you guys so you could understand that it's not going to work for you, okay? But I can go get one of these for $3 at Harbor Freight, put that in my desk drawer, and now I can get out of a window fairly easy, okay? And it's not difficult. You just kind of got to know how to do it, and somebody's got to tell you what to do and what not to do. Okay, so any questions about running? It works. Kids are really good at running, right? We like to use their strengths. So I taught this class, several of these at the Utah State School for the Deaf and Blind. And now we're talking about like first graders who are blind, you know, or deaf, or both. What do I do with them? Can they fight? Can a first grader fight anybody? Probably not, especially when they're blind, right? What can they do? Can they really run? Not so much. What are they really good at doing? Hiding and being quiet, and they don't even mind the dark. That was a blind joke. No, so you take their strengths, right? So I can take a first grader that may be blind, and I can hide them, right? And that's something I can do to maybe prolong their life. And so that's the kind of things we're talking about. What do I have available to me? So when we talk about hiding, I have to look around me and go, what do I have available to me? And if my office is made of all glass, is that a good place to hide? No, hiding might not be an option for me, okay? But let's look at this room, for example. Is this a pretty good room to hide in? Yes. Why? There's lots of little alcoves. I've got some resources in here, multiple exits and entrances. It's not a bad place to hide. There's no windows, right? But let's talk about how we make that more effective. Can I lock this door right here? Nope, I can't even lock this door. So if the bad guy's coming through here after me and I'm behind this door, I can't lock it. What can I do? Okay. So let's talk about doors and how they work. And you guys are like, I know how doors work. You walk through them. That's true. But we have to categorize them in two ways, inward and outward swinging, right? And I explained to my breachers who aren't the brightest that it's like your belly button, innie or outie, okay? And so if a door swings in towards you, we call that an in swing. If it swings out, where'd my outswing door go? Well, okay, I must have missed, I'll fix it. If it swings out, it's an outswing door. So the front door on your house, if you're answering your front door, is in swing, okay? This is outswing, okay. If the bad guy, we'll talk about, so for purposes of demonstration, bear with me, pretend this swings in now, okay? Most office doors, if you have an office, it's going to swing in. Front door on your house is going to swing in. Most conference rooms are going to swing out. That's usually how buildings are constructed. So if this door swings in, bad guy's coming and it swings into me, what could I do? Simplest thing is I could just hold it shut, right? Not ideal. I could barricade it with what? Oh yeah, so I could just pile junk in front of it. Okay, you guys watch Hoarders? Watch them climb in the front door, right? Just make it like that. If it makes it difficult for him, right? Because if it takes him 20 seconds to climb in through here, that's a life saved. So I could just pile stuff in front of it. Okay, what else?
Doorstop.
Oh, yes, the state contract doorstop. Will this hold the door shut? No, it'll just roll and smush and they slide. But the principle of a wedge is pretty valid. Look at this wedge. It's a pry bar, crowbar, okay? And I really should, I don't want to. Does anybody want to push on this door a little bit? We're not going to push hard, okay? Because I don't want to damage the carpet, which it will do, okay? But come here for a minute. Don't push hard on the door. I want you to just shove it a little bit and let me know what you think after I put it under here. Give it a go. Okay, and I didn't even kick it under there very hard, right? Because I don't want to damage anything. But pretty effective as a wedge. The problem is if it was too long, like they usually look, why is this not working? That's just slow. They usually look like this. If it was too long, the bad guy could kick it back out. So I just shortened it, right? And if I'm going to shorten it, I might as well sharpen it. Because why wouldn't you, right? And so I've also now got a little bit of a weapon. And I could breach a window with this because I've got something sharp, metallic. I could pop the corner of a window and open up a window if I needed to with something like this. So the wedge is valid, but it's got to be something like this that's stout enough. Cool thing about this is the door rides up this. It just puts more downforce on these teeth, and it just bites even harder. Okay, and it will destroy the carpet if you put it all the way in there and kick it in. So that works. It swings in. What else could I do? There is this little doohickey that Master Lock makes. I first saw this in a tweaker house. Excuse me, law-abiding challenge citizen. You guys feel better about that? Okay. The idea is I put this under the doorknob of my front door, right? And stops the door from opening. I saw that. They wanted me to teach this class, so I went and bought a couple of them, put them underneath the door, hit it twice with my shoulder, and snapped it off. It's a giant hunk of crap. But there are all sorts of videos on YouTube like, this thing's the greatest thing ever. It's a piece of crap. Don't buy it. Okay? Buy this instead. This is a ratcheting cargo bar. Okay? Now, I've got a handout you guys can put your emails on when we're done here, and all this stuff is on there. It shows you where you can buy it if you want it, whatever. This was $23, that was $20. That does not work. This does. Okay, so here's a reality check for you. Just because something is commercially made, it doesn't mean it works. Okay, but I've tested this, buy that one instead of this one. So here, I put it underneath the doorknob, use that little ratcheting thing, tick, 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 and create that triangular shape, which is tons of strong, and there we go. Doors held closed. You could use anything like this, right? So an in-swing door, if I have a ladder, if I could take these tables and put them end to end to end, all the way to this wall or to this pole, okay, I can stop that door from opening. What's in this pole, by the way? It's probably steel, right? It's too small to be concrete, so there's probably steel inside there. Good place to hide behind that. Okay, so this was in a closet in the West Valley driver's license office. So I like to go into closets and just, so like your brake closet over here in the finance area, it swings in the break room, and there's two big fridges right there. Tip that fridge over, bam, money, right? Okay. So here I used a ladder because that was it in the closet. It's against the opposing wall. That door's not coming open. And look, somebody was retiring that day, so there's a crock pot full of food. So I can be in there for hours. What if the door swings the other way, though? It like this door does. It swings away from me. Bad guy's on the other side of this door. I can't lock it. Here he comes. What do? I could just hold it shut, right? That's the very basic thing. That's where you start. I hold it shut. Next best. Okay, so she's talking about the pneumatic. Yes, and we're going to actually talk about that quite a bit. And then the last thing you can do is somehow tie it shut. Okay. Obviously, you could still do the hoarder thing, right, where I just pile stuff on top and make it difficult, if nothing else. Okay, so the pneumatics. You need to look at the pneumatic before you even try to do this. Okay, and everybody's heard this. Everybody's heard this because KSL did stories on it. It's on YouTube and all this nonsense. Has anybody ever tried to do it? That's the problem, right? Because if there's shooting going on outside right now, do you think you're going to be like, you're going to be like, holy shit, you know, right? And so let's talk about it a little bit. So you got to look at the pneumatic. If it lays against the door like that, it'll work. If it sticks out, it will not work. Okay? There's a triangular shape there. My goal is to stop that triangular shape from spreading. This one starts to spread immediately. If it sticks out, go open a door like that, right? And you'll see that that triangle doesn't spread until the door is about that far open. So it will not work. So that's the first thing I look. Okay, yes, it lays against the door. I could tie that shut. What could I tie it shut with? A belt, maybe? And everybody always says belt. Are people actually wearing belts anymore? Okay, so now we're talking. I look around and I go, what do I have? So I've got some cordage on here. That might work. I grab a big length of this freaking Cat 5 wire and just tear it out of there, right? That works excellent. Okay, I've got, here I did one with Cat 5 wire that I just tore out of the ceiling and tied it shut, okay? But my goal is to stop that from opening. I think the easiest thing to do it with is 550 cord or paracord, right? They used to make bracelets out of it and people wore them because they were trendy, and now nobody wears them anymore because they're not cool. So if I have something like this, a little bit of cordage, and I can just lash it around there like that and then tie this off to something, okay? I can prevent that door from opening. Now it's not bomb-proof, and I could break that if I push hard enough, but remember the bad guy's pulling. So you don't have near as much strength pulling as you do pushing, okay? And so he may be able to get it a little bit, and they'll bend, and you know, you'll get a little bit of flex, and you can almost get some fingers in there, right? And so if the bad guy really wants to get in, he's probably going to do what? He's probably going to put his fingers in there so he can really pull, right? And you're going to short him 4 fingers, right? If you could imagine that, if you could cut off 4 of the bad guy's fingers as he sticks his hand in there, do you think he's going to continue? Probably done. He's probably like, oh, shoot, right? And now he's missing 4 fingers, and he's probably going to run away. Is that good? Absolutely. Do we know who he is? Sure we do. There's his fingers. Just print him right here. Okay. So you can use a belt, but I am a big fan of having something available like this. Okay, because a piece of 10 feet of this costs you $1 max, right? And it's super flexible. There's tons of different things I can do with it, like tying this shut. You could use the Cat 5 wire. You could use this. You could use a belt. But a lot of people just aren't wearing belts that are really tough enough to hold that shut. That's just reality. You know, and we're going to talk about like tourniquets and stuff too. And people talk about using belts for tourniquets. I can show you a video of people trying to put tourniquets on people at the Murray Mall after they were shot with a belt, and it doesn't work great. Okay, but I will show you some stuff that does. Okay, so I could attack the pneumatic. Here I've got it with zip ties, giant zip ties. Here I did it with tubular webbing. I showed you how to do it with 550 cord. So I can attack a pneumatic anyway like that to hold it from opening. Okay, KSL did a story last year. There is a device. They make a device. It's $100. Slides over this. So they're trying to sell them to teachers. Okay. Any teacher's going to pay $100 out of their pocket to buy one of those? No. This is a piece of fire hose. Right? I kind of get the same effect. Not quite as good as 550 cord, but it does go on there pretty quick. And if you know any firefighters, right, they just get rid of this stuff after so many cycles. And so just ask them for a piece of fire hose. That works really well too. Okay. You can also tie the door to something. So I can attack the handle or the pneumatic with the same wire or cable or whatever I can get a hold of and hold that door shut, right? So around here, I can go around that crash bar and hold that door shut. Okay. Better yet, I take a table, push a table in front of it, and then tie this to that. Or I take this flagpole, turn it sideways, and then tie this to that. Okay, and I'm just lashing the door closed because I can't lock it. Right? I'm buying myself time, and if the bad guy comes to my door and he wastes 40 seconds trying to get into my door because he really hates one of you, I don't know, that's great. That's 40 seconds that he wasted. Half of all these shootings are over before cops get here. Whether they self-inflict or whether you take care of it, half of them are done by the time cops get here. So if I can waste 30 seconds here and 20 seconds down the hall and 40 seconds over there, now we're talking. That's real time and that's real lives saved. Any questions about that kind of stuff? About tying and securing doors, buying time? A lot of people say, well, I would never do that in a shooting. Well, if you're on the 3rd floor and the shooting is going on the 2nd floor, what are you going to do in the next 5 minutes? Seriously, what are you going to do? You know, text your loved ones? I mean, don't get me wrong, I get that. But is that really more important, or is surviving more important? Right? So let's do something that's going to give us a better chance. You're starting to see these types of devices installed, mostly in schools, where they can permanently barricade the door. This little piece right here comes out, slides out, and the teacher can retain that. So then they just go over to the door, close it, drop it in, the door's barricade. They work pretty good. Okay. This one, not so much, because that stays on the door all the time. So you leave your classroom and problem child A locks you out of your classroom. Okay, so schools are starting to do this a lot more. I don't know if you guys have seen any doing it. I know that they're testing it. I tested several for Tooele School District and some for Jordan. So they're out there. It used to be against fire code. It's not anymore. The state legislature passed that law that allows these devices to be installed now. Any questions about hiding? Here's a fun one. So you've been hiding in your office. It's been an hour. You're hiding in your office. And police open up. What do? What do? Like, no! Right? Hey, this is your time to screw with cops. So freaking use it, okay? No, I'm not opening up. They go, you need to open up, okay? I teach my guys, don't force your way in, okay? Because I'm about to tell you to friggin' hit people that force their way in. So what do? So I say, okay, here you go. I'm going to slide my ID card under the door. Right? Slide that under the door. Okay, open up. You got my ID card. You guys opening? This is up to you. No, you shot the cop and took his wallet. Okay? So we slide 2 ID cards, because an hour in, am I going to be alone? No, so I slide 2 cop IDs under the door. You guys going to open? No. Okay, so what are you going to do? How do you find out? How do you make sure? You can try. If you call dispatch from here, who do you get? Salt Lake City Police, who do I work for? UHP, totally different dispatch. They're going to be like, I don't know who Sergeant Weber is. And they're going to be like, ha! Got you, you're not even a cop. Go away. And plus, dispatch is really busy. How about this? How about you say, or I say, if I'm the cop on the other side of the door, I say, what's your number? And they go, and we go. And we take a picture of us standing outside your office with uniforms and guns, and look, the picture that we took matches the picture on the ID cards that we just slid under the door. Would you open it? Yeah, right? And so think about real world solutions to problems, not stuff you see on TV and whatnot, right? That, most people would open the door in that situation. Okay, any other questions about hiding? Let's talk about fighting. Who wants to fight? Yeah, let's fight, okay? Are there some people who won't fight? Yeah, there are, right? And that's okay. But I think that most people will fight if they're in the situation. They just don't want to admit it to themselves. Like, no, I'm a lover, not a fighter, right? It's like, all right, everybody will fight once your life is on the line, right? Everybody's like, oh, so let's talk about it and actually give you some things that might work. So could I just fight him with these? Yeah, I could. Is this less effective? Yeah, there's things that I can do, like grab something like this. Does this make me more effective? Yes, right? And so when we start talking about fighting, there's some things you want to do. You want to use surprise, you want to use numbers, you want to improvise weapons. Okay? So 10 people attacking him, everybody armed with something is going to do a number, right? He's not going to be able to beat all 10 people. Okay? Remember, he's going through this loop. We want to reset that loop. If he comes through the door and I put this into his eyeball, does that reset the loop? Yes. Okay? And some of you are going to start to cringe when I start to talk about this stuff, but you need to actually think about doing this because this is reality. You're not going to stop somebody like this. Okay? You're going to have to incapacitate them. And it's going to have to be something serious, some type of traumatic injury to get them to stop. So when we talk about that, we're going to look around. So you look around the room and you go, what could I use for a weapon? Flagpole, right? What else? Chair, maybe? Shoes. Clock. Okay. I want heavy. In the video, in the last one, they were getting ready to fight. What room were they in? Break room, which might have a knife, right? A knife. It's freaking cut some people, right? Grab the weapons that are going to be most effective. Because if I can open up a head and I can get them bleeding, that will reset a lot of things. Okay, once you start bleeding from the head, you're going to reset some things. And it doesn't even if you just hit him with something, head wounds bleed, right? If I get blood running down his face, that's going to help you a ton to beat this guy. Okay, so here we go. You guys dug around in your room and you found, this is what you found. Okay, I like using different props. Last time I used something different. This is what I'm using this time. This is what you found in your room because somebody was hanging up their plaques on their me wall, yesterday, and so they had a hammer there, and you found this. Okay, an ace bandage because somebody sprained their ankle playing some b-ball outside the school. Okay. What do I do? What do I do with this? Like, yeah, you guys are like, yeah, you hit people with it. I get it. Okay. We got to get specific. Who do I give this to? The strongest?
The person who's going to fight.
The one with the mental oomph to get this done. The one who's like, I've been waiting my whole life for this, and they're over here stretching. They're like, right? Okay, and you're like, yes, that's my guy, right? I knew an old cop who used to carry a mouthpiece around with him, like old school. And when people would start getting lippy, he'd just take his mouthpiece out and put it in. And they're like, oh, right? They back off, right? So it's the person that you know is going to get her done. Okay, so I take it and I give it to them, and then I know that I selected the right person when they go like this. Okay, because that's the end I'm going to hit them with. Okay, and so I put them where? And this is how specific you need to get to make a plan work. I put them to the side of the door, okay? Maybe a little bit off the side where they can still swing, but they're a little bit out of line of sight. Okay, and that's where I put them. And I said, you stand here, okay? And they're like, okay, I got this. What do I do with this? Or this. Or it doesn't matter. Or this. Yeah, don't underestimate the value of a distraction. So if my only job is to stand here, and as soon as that door comes open, all I'm doing is chucking this and running. Okay, what's the guy going to do? He's going to flinch, right? And then I run, and I run fast. Is he going to be able to hit me? Probably not. Chances of him hitting you, shooting, is almost none, okay? And I've given guys some guns, like, go ahead, try to hit me. Run back and forth. They can't hit you. And so I do this, I distract him for a minute, and I run. Who does he follow? The runner. Your human eye is going to track the movement. It's attracted to the movement. And I guarantee you that if you throw that hard and run, he is going to completely miss this guy standing right here. He's not even going to see this guy until it's too late. And I'm giving this guy the little bit of an edge he needs to finish this. Okay? So, and then I run over there, and then I make a circle back and grab something, and I join in too. Okay? So are you sure there's no attorneys in here? Okay. So, boom, boom, we do. So I taught this at UDOT a couple weeks ago, and she's like, what happens if the hammer gets stuck in their skull? And she's like, do you just pull it back out? I said, well, if it's stuck in his skull, I think your job's probably done.
Give it to her.
Which begs the question, here he is, bam, 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 bam. There he's laying on the ground. When do I stop? The correct answer is when he's no longer a threat to me. Okay, when the threat's eliminated, that's when I stop. And it's hard. If anybody's ever been in a knockdown, drag-out fight, and if it ends a little quick, like you knock them out, or you use a taser and they give up, and you're like, I got all this adrenaline. Okay, it's hard sometimes to stop. Okay, so at some point you got to stop. I've pulled off and I'm like, he's not moving, no longer threat. Okay, now what do I do? Okay, that's Hollywood, right? Kick the gun away. You guys tell me when we're good. Further?
Pick the gun up.
Pick the gun up how? If I pick the gun up like this, and cops come through the door right now, who's getting shot? Right. If you're going to pick it up like this. Okay. Hold it away from you. And everybody, inevitably there's a gun person in here who goes, well, the barrel's going to be hot. I was like, well, either toughen up Buttercup or use your shirt and grab it. Okay. All right. And I hold it out away from me like this. Okay. Because if cops come through right now, they don't perceive this as a threat. Just like this isn't perceived as a threat. If I hold it out away from me, I'm not going to get shot. Okay. Yes.
Can I back up one step?
Yes.
So when we're hitting the person with a hammer,
Mm-hmm.
where should we be aiming? Where's our best bet to?
Head.
Sometimes that's not obvious, and so that's why I was.
Go for the head. Yes. Yeah, we're pretty good at that. We're pretty good at identifying a gun, and that's why I'm holding it out here too, right? If I held it like this, probably not, right? This, we perceive that as not a threat. Most cops are trained to do that. Now, are there idiots in every profession? Yes. Okay. So there's no guarantees here. So that means I want to get this out of my hand as soon as possible. What do I do with it? Trash can, ceiling, drawer, somewhere. Get it out of my hands, out of the problem. Now what? Oh my gosh, every time. Okay, I attribute this tie 'em up thing to 50 Shades of Grey. Okay. I don't know why everybody thinks tying people's up is the way to go. Hold them down, sit on them. Okay, what did you just do to this dude? How much blood might be right here? Anybody want to touch that? No. Anybody ever had a significant exposure? A needle stick, blood, people spit on you. You know what you have to do? Like you get all these shots and all this nonsense, and then like you have to abstain from extracurricular activities with your spouse or significant other for like 6 months. It's no fun. Okay? If I see that, all that blood, I'm gonna be like, no way. No way. Okay? Remember, run, hide, fight is not 1, 2, 3. We just fought. Can we just not go back to run? Yeah? All right, everybody, he's down. Let's get out of here. Guns out of the equation, we get out. If this guy wakes up, if he wakes up, is he going to go looking for his gun in the drawer or the ceiling? No. He's probably, pretty much done at that point. But let's just get everybody out. Cops are coming in. Hey, he's in the conference room. Left side as you come in the front door. We put him down. He's in there. Right? Let's just get out of here. Don't fool around with this guy. Plus, several of them have, and you guys don't really want to think about this, have explosives on them nowadays, right? I don't really want to be hanging around any ticking anythings. If that makes sense. Okay? That's fighting. Do you guys have any questions about fighting? Improvised weapons are those weapons that you can find and get a hold of, right? But when we talk about weapons, we also have to talk about dedicated weapons, right? And so there's a few that come up. Knives, tasers, pepper spray, firearms are usually the 4 that I hear. Where do you want to start? Here and end here? Or do you want to go from here and end here? No care? No care? Want to start with pepper spray? Knife, gun? Okay. You guys don't care, so whatever. Here we go. I've got one of these in here. Can you guys carry this at work? Yes. As long as you're doing it legally, right? Concealed and now I think there would even be an argument that you could open carry. Nobody's tested that yet, and I don't think it's a good idea, right? There's a lot of things that you can do, but probably shouldn't do, right? You can go to a biker bar and be like, okay? You can do that. That's completely legal. Probably not a good idea, right? And so you guys get where I'm going. So yeah, you can carry this at work. Does this change that same scenario that I just gave you? No, it doesn't. Look, deadly force, deadly force. All it changes is what I'm doing it with, right? The law doesn't care. Okay, so I use this. I still have the same plan. I still have a distraction. I'm just using this instead of the hammer. Okay. So what it does change is what I do after. Like as soon as you use this, put it away. Right? Once he's no longer a threat, you better get that thing reholstered, because now here I am, gun in hand kind of thing. What I don't want is if you've got one of these, let's say one of you in here has one, which is great. I'm not pro or anti-gun, right? I'm telling you what the laws are. One of you has one of these. Here's what I don't want you to do. Get out your little bitty concealed gun, right? Because they're usually little bitty guns with probably no extra magazines to go to, and go hunting. Right? Because you'll probably lose that fight. Right? And then you're going to encounter. But I use this to defend everybody in my area and my people. Okay? Does that make sense? There's a lot of liability associated with carrying one of these. Right? If I leave it out, somebody gets a hold of it, that's a problem. That, all you guys understand all that. You have any questions about firearms in the workplace? What you can and can't do? What you should and shouldn't do? I know there's some questions. If you don't want to ask them, come ask me afterwards. There's a lot of things to consider. I can't get my wife to carry a gun I've got so many guns at my house, and she won't carry any of them. Even when I buy like pink ones, she won't carry it. I was like, maybe this will get her to carry it. And that's fine. I get that some people don't like to do that. Do I think all teachers should be armed? No, I don't even think all cops should be armed. Right? I just don't think it's a palatable solution that we arm all teachers. Okay? But that option is available to some of them, so we need to talk about it so that everybody knows. You can't make any rules that prohibit anything around this, right? I went and taught at the Attorney General's office, and they're like, oh yeah, we can carry concealed, but they have to carry it unloaded, was what they said. I'm like, stand by. You guys are all attorneys, and you just made a rule that supplanted the University of Utah versus Mark Shurtleff, the Supreme Court ruling here in Utah. And they're like, oh, I didn't think about that, right? And so they're really book smart, but when it comes to practical stuff, you're kind of like, not the brightest, okay? So you cannot make any rules that tell people, oh, you can only carry this, or you can't carry loaded, or your supervisor and administrators can't make any rules like that. Which brings me to another point. I'm getting off a little bit, but not too bad. Does anybody remember the Harrisville Walmart 2 years ago? The 4 loss prevention employees that took a gentleman in the back, a individual into the back room. He was shoplifting, and got him in the back room, and he produced a firearm, and they wrestled it away from him. Anybody remember that? You might remember it when I say this. Walmart fired him, right? They just won a Supreme Court case here in Utah, and the Supreme Court ruled in favor of those 4 gentlemen. Walmart or you, State Board of Education, schools cannot make any rules that restrict your ability to protect yourself, is what it boils down to, right? They can't tell you can't fight. Well, we have an anti-violence policy, right? And I'm sure I'm going to ruffle some feathers here, right? But we're so worried about all this. Man, when I was growing up, you used to fight. That's like kids fought a little bit. And now you can't even look at people cross-eyed, or you're sent to the principal's office kind of thing, right? And we've kind of lost some of that ability to to do some of these things that might save somebody's life. And so Walmart fired them. State Supreme Court ruled in their favor. They probably made more money off that judgment than they would have made at Walmart in the next 30 years. So yeah, you have a constitutional and a court guaranteed right to fight for yourself in these types of situations, and for a third party. Okay, so that's firearms. What about tasers? Did you guys have a taser at work? This is a civilian taser. Any volunteers? She's like, oh. Sorry, it doesn't work on redheads. Sorry. Okay, my wife's a redhead, so I like to make fun of them. Yeah, you can carry a taser at work. Here's the problem with taser. This little cartridge shoots out 2 little wires. Those wires hopefully make contact, create a circuit, puts the dude down. These fail about 40% of the time. Okay, that's been my personal experience. Of all the taser deployments I've had, about 40% of the time it doesn't work. So what I don't want you to do is go by this and go, the guy's got a gun. Haha, I've got a taser. Because 60-40 is not great odds. I mean, it's better than 50-50, but not by far, right? So don't put all your life on this and encounter a guy with a firearm and think this is an equal match. It's not. Okay. And then the second thing I will say about tasers, once I've expended this cartridge, I can shock people like this, like close. And she's like, please don't shock me, please don't shock me. Non-working demo unit, right? I'm not reckless. Yeah, I can shock people like this, but here's the thing. What happens when I let off this power button? It stops. And what happens to the bad guy? Yeah, he's back 100%. It is not like Hollywood, okay? It's not black bags in warehouses 2 hours later. He's back 100%. So understand that. They're kind of expensive. But if, say, my kid gets a hold of this instead of this, is this less liability? Yeah, probably not going to kill somebody. Could lose an eye. Like, shoots this into his eye, probe's going to an eye, he's going to lose an eye. So there's less, okay? What about, this one's almost empty. I've sprayed too many people. What about pepper spray? Who wants some? It's just water and alcohol. It's a trainer. Anybody carry pepper spray? Okay, got a couple there. Does this work? Anybody ever been sprayed? Oh, man. This is 2 hours of complete hell, okay? I'd way rather be tased than pepper sprayed. I'll tell you that. And then when you shower, it starts all over again. So, but much like the taser, if somebody's got a gun and I go like this and they've got a gun and I spray them, what do? Shoot me, right? It's not going to solve that, okay? It's not an equal match. Where this does work really good is like the sexual assaults or something like that, where somebody's planning on surviving. People who come into here aren't planning on living. They're planning on dying at the end of this active shooter for the most part. So if somebody's, say, trying to rape me and I spray them, they're going to be like, whoa, I wasn't planning on that, and they're usually out. If I spray somebody in an active shooter, they're probably going to continue doing what they're doing. It's just making it very difficult for them to do that, right? Because it impairs your vision and your breathing. So not an equal match for a gun. Here's where I think we're missing the boat on something like this. I'm a teacher. I'm in my classroom. I get the announcement over the PA. There's an active shooter in the building. Go into your little lockdown protocols that they have, which we'll talk about here in a second. I cover my window. What if I just took this, opened my door, and went and just hosed down the doorknob at the outside of my door? Okay. Now I've created a chemical barrier on top of that physical barrier. Guy comes to the door, and if I spray that much in here, you all would be coughing and your eyes would be watering. Okay. Guy comes to my door, his eyes start to water and itch. He's like, God, what is that? And he touches the door handle. Now it's on his hand. Okay. And his eyes are starting. What's he going to do? He's going to touch his face. Boom. Okay. I've got him. Is he going to spend any time around my door? Not really. Right? He's probably going to move on. Plus, I've got it tied shut on the other side. So chemical barrier, multiple physical barriers, and then I'm ready to fight him on the other side. Okay, now we're talking. Now if he does get through all of my barriers, he's having a hard time seeing, and he's wasted a minute and a half at my door. That's a win. Okay, and so that's all we're talking about. Think Home Alone, right? Make it as difficult as you can on this guy at every step through this building. He should be challenged everywhere he goes, whether it's by people with weapons, locked doors, secure things like that, whatever. All of those things are going to make it very difficult to do what he wants to do. Do you have any questions about weapons and maybe what you should do? A lot less liability if your kid gets a hold of this, right? Kid finds this in your purse or your desk or whatever. We call that a self-correcting problem, right? They spray themselves. That's funny, okay? And you laugh, okay? What are you doing in my desk anyway? Get out of my stuff, right? It's not going to kill anybody. Cleans up with soap and water, not a big deal. Cheap. What else? Any questions about weapons? Okay. We kind of already covered this. When we talk about firearms, if there's somebody who's really interested, we talk about what to carry and all that stuff. Talk a lot about being perceived as a threat. If you do carry a concealed permit, your firearm, maybe to leave it in the holster until you're ready to do what you need to do and then put it back in the holster. Here's the state statute when you can use deadly force on real property to protect yourself. It's in the handout, so you don't need to write down if you want to put your email in. But it does spell out when you can use deadly force to protect yourself or somebody else at work or at a mall or wherever you have a legal right to be. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about anything we've gone over so far? We're going to go. What time is it? We're going to go over this a little bit, and then we'll talk about some questions that you may have in regards to this. Who here has had CPR training? It's been a while. But everybody's had it at some point, right? Even if it's not current. So what did they teach you the first time they did CPR training? 2 breaths and 25 compressions, probably, if it's been a while. And then it went to 2 and 50, and then it went to 2 and 100, and now it's like just pump on their chest, don't even breathe. That's what they're teaching now, right? Okay? And so you've seen this evolution, and you're like, well, what changed? What changed? Did anybody's body, did we evolve in the last 10 years? No. What changed? Science, the knowledge of what actually works and what doesn't work. Okay? So I'm going to talk to you about some things that actually do work. Does CPR work? 2% of the time it works. That's about it. Okay, CPR outside of emergency room setting is not very successful. And I kind of tell you guys that, not to be Debbie Downer, but to let you know if you end up doing CPR on somebody and they don't live, it's not your fault. Right? I've done CPR on a fair amount of people. I think 4, and they've all died. So, it is what it is. It does work sometimes. In an emergency room, it works much better because they have AEDs or defibrillators and epi, push epinephrine and restart a heart. But without an electronic means or chemical means to restart a heart, it's pretty useless. But I tell you what CPR did teach you. It taught you this part of my acronym. So the acronym I have up here is MARCH, massive bleeding airway, respiration, circulation, and hypothermia. And sometimes we'll put head into hypothermia also. If you know CPR, you understand airway, recovery position, those kind of things, right? Patent airway, make sure they don't have it, their tongue's not blocking, put them in recovery position. So if they vomit, da-da-da-da-da. You understand respiration. Are they breathing? Are they not breathing? Do I need to provide, we don't do breaths anymore. Do I have a back valve mask? Can I provide air for them somehow? And then is their heart beating? Do I need to provide compressions if their heart is not beating? And that's all good, but what kind of wounds are we talking about in this type of situation? Bleeding, right? They're either gunshot or stabbed are probably the most common. If somebody's gunshot and I just go to airway, respiration, circulation and start pumping on their chest because their heart's not, what am I doing? Pumping the blood out faster, okay? What kind of first aid training have you had? Like put a Band-Aid on it? Like, that's good, okay. Usually when they talk about major bleeding in first aid, they're talking about what? Direct pressure. Okay, I'm going to present something to you that may be a little bit new or different than what you've heard, but you're going to get some training on it in the upcoming future because I know that they're coming here. This is a tourniquet. Okay, so when we talk about massive bleeds, we look first at the appendages. Are they bleeding from an arm and leg? And we look there first because they're easy to diagnose and they're easy to shut off. Done. Okay, a major bleed in this arm, tourniquet on it, shut off. Okay, if I had a major femoral severance, like I have full severance of this femoral artery, how long do I have? Yeah, I got about 2 minutes to death, about 30 seconds to loss of consciousness, and only about 15 of those seconds am I going to be able to see and use my fingers. So you need to be able to get a tourniquet on something like that faster than 15 to 20 seconds. Okay, so that's not very long. So this idea of improvising a tourniquet like, oh, I could use this, and then I got to somehow get it off the flag and get it around your leg, is probably not a good idea. So when we talk tourniquets, I talk pre-stage design tourniquets just for those types of injuries. This is a CAT tourniquet. There's others out there. They all work pretty well. But if you're going to get something like this, you should just practice with it and know how to use it so that you can put it on in that 10, 15 seconds. So when we put a tourniquet on, we put it on the affected appendage, we put it high and tight, and we cinch it down till the bleeding stops. Period. Okay? Now, you will hear somebody come in here probably at some point or in the future and say, you put the tourniquet on 2 inches above the wound. Here's the problem. Well, there's several problems with that. I'll tell you the first one is, and it's usually doctors and like EMTs and stuff that will tell you to do that. When a doctor's putting on a tourniquet, where are they? Safe in an emergency room. You are currently being shot at. Okay, right? This is reality. You're currently being in a hostile environment. Do I want to be searching for that gunshot wound and then going 2 inches above, or am I just going to put it on, cinch it down, and get to safety? Right? So you put it high and tight, cinch it down till the bleeding stops, leave it there. Nobody removes it unless you've got MD at the back of your name. Okay, it stays on there. Okay, am I going to lose the arm? 6 hours. You can have a tourniquet on for 6 hours or more, and the limb is completely viable. I know they told me when I was in Scouts, when I was this high, you put a tourniquet on, they're going to lose the limb, and everybody is scared to do it because nobody wants to be responsible for somebody losing a leg. Fact is, you can put it on, it'll be fine. Put it on, cinch it down, leave it. Okay, where else could I bleed besides the appendages, arms and legs? So the chest cavity, where else? Neck and head, and then what we call junctional hemorrhaging. Okay, if somebody's shot in the face, the head, not a lot you can do. Right? Let's call it how it is. You're like, okay. Oddly enough, I went and I met a gal that was in the Virginia, she survived the Virginia Tech shooting. And she was shot like 5, 6 times, I think. And the cops keep coming in and go, oh, she's black, move on, right? And black is a code that we use to go, can't help her, she dead. But she couldn't figure out, why does it matter if she's black? Help her, right? So maybe we need to change that. But there are some wounds that you can't do anything for. Okay, but when we talk about junctional hemorrhaging, we're talking about hips, shoulders, neck. Okay, if somebody is shot, could I be shot through the hip here and bleed just as much as I could from a femoral? Yeah, I could get a full severance of the femoral internal. Okay, and there's that cavity that's created by that bullet inside here. Can you stop that with direct pressure? No, sir, right? Unless you can crush my hips and pelvic muscles or bones. So we need to do what we call packing that wound. You're going to find the wound channel. You're going to take something. Best is hemostatic dressing, hemostatic gauze. Second best is regular gauze. Then you can start using socks and shoes, shirts, and all that stuff. This is a hemostatic gauze. It causes blood to clot. This is just regular gauze, right? I'm going to find that wound channel. I'm going to insert material, gather, insert, gather, insert, gather, insert. I'm going to push all this material into that cavity that was created by that round. And I'm essentially creating a pressure dressing internally in my gut, right? And that's how you're going to stop that wound. So I'm going to pack material in there until I can't pack anymore and then hold it in. Is it going to hurt? Yes, it is, okay, but it may save somebody's life. I could pack here, pack into the shoulders, pack into the neck area if they had a carotid severance here or something like that, gunshot through here. When you put pressure on the carotid, just make sure you do single side pressure, right? Not, I'm helping you, okay? Single side pressure where you've packed into and hold it in there, okay? Now, last place that you can't pack that you may have some issues is the chest, okay? Yeah, somebody could take a round through the top of the heart, sever, the aortic, artery or vein leaving, and yeah, you're hosed at that point, right? Nothing you can do. But what happens is when people get shot in the chest, okay, it starts venting atmospheric pressure into your chest cavity, right? So out here, there's pressure. Any pilots in here? Man, come on. It's a great hobby. It's expensive. Standard atmospheric pressure is 299 or 2, right? Barometric pressure. And that atmosphere is around us all the time, and you don't even realize it. But once I punch a hole in my chest, there's a vacuum in here. And that lets your lungs go in and out without fighting anything. And all of a sudden I put a hole in here, and now I've got atmosphere venting into the chest, and my lungs breathe out, and they get small, and you go to breathe in, and you can't breathe in, and it's called a tension pneumothorax. Okay, and so what happens is if it gets bad enough, if you don't start plugging these holes, it can actually distend the trachea off to one side, the other lung will stop functioning, can stop the heart, all sorts of bad stuff happens, and they'll stop breathing. So if somebody is shot in the chest, it's really easy. All I do is take something occlusive, plastic, right? I have chest seals that will work really well, but you don't have to have something. It doesn't have to, just some plastic and some duct tape or packing tape, something like that. And I cover the hole and I tape it up. Stop that atmosphere from venting in there. Keep the other lung working and they'll be fine. It'll still happen. This will still develop, but you're going to buy them 15, 20, 30 minutes, okay, for that tension pneumothorax to develop. Tourniquets on appendages, high and tight, cinch it down till the bleeding stops. Pack junctional hemorrhaging, hips, shoulders, seal the wounds in the chest, okay, front and back. If there's an entry, there might be an exit. Find them both, okay, and plug all those holes. And some of you guys are kind of like, I don't know if I could do this. And it does take a special kind of person to do this kind of stuff sometimes. But you know what? You probably will rise to the occasion if you're under a little bit of stress, and you'll be able to do it. But you got to get the training. And I know it's coming here soon. So this was just to wet your whistle a little bit in regards to that. I bet, anybody ride motorcycles in here? Do you have one of these on your motorcycle? I would. If I could show you pictures of motorcycle crashes where there's feet that go underneath the bike as it lays down and get dragged down the highway for 100 meters, and it's just a bloody stump, and arms and stuff that get torn off. I'd have one of these on my handlebars right there where I know it is, so I can put it on myself if I get. But I bet you that you have a better chance of saving a life with 2 of these, with some of this, than you do with one of these. Okay? Somebody needs to stop this shooter, right? Might be one of you, might be himself, might be the cops. Once he's dead, how many people need this? Yeah, how many people were wounded at Las Vegas? 400 and something they put the number at now. Some of those were just freaking trample injuries because people are just running over people, which is kind of rude in my opinion. But you could have 10, 15, 20 people in this building that need a little bit of medical treatment that you could save some lives there, right? We spent all this time how to prevent people from getting shot, but the fact is there are going to be some people who do get shot or hurt, okay? And so if we can get a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of all of this, we can bring those together and make this end better than they have in the past. Okay, you're going to have the opportunity to participate in a class called Stop the Bleed that will address all of this and how to do it. Probably not a bad idea, if I were you, to maybe have a few things. I'll bet you that we could go throughout this building, and if we took these 2 things, we could barricade 80% of the doors we find with these 2 items. Okay, and now I take these 2 items and I throw one of these in there and a roll of gauze and I've got myself a nice little tiny kit that can go with me wherever. Okay, it can sit in my desk drawer. Nobody thinks anything of it. But man, if you needed one of these, I bet you I could sell it to you for a lot more than $22, which is what they cost. Okay. Word of caution, if you do go to buy something like this, make sure you buy it from a reputable source. There are people who play airsoft on the weekend, which is fine, but they play fake war and they put fake tourniquets on their fake injuries. And they have ones that are much cheaper that will break and won't function. So make sure this is a CAT, which is Combat Application Training. I've got links on the handout. Make sure you buy it from a reputable place. Okay. I will remain for a little bit. Got you guys done on time this time, so that was good. I will remain because obviously a lot of times people have questions that they don't want to ask in front of everybody. So come ask me the questions. If you want to try some of this stuff, knock yourself out. I'm not going to grab something, go tie a door shut. I don't care, right? Try it, test it so that you know it works. Okay? If you have questions, come to me. Other than that, come put your email address in here if you want the handout, and we'll see you around. Thank you.